Hello, everybody. Welcome back to News for Normies, where I bring you at least a week's worth of news in a short time frame. However, this week will be 2 weeks worth of news because I was out last week. So, if you like this video or you're fed up with leftist commie bullshit, hit that like button, share with your friends, and let me know your thoughts down below. Um, yeah, so if you're new to the channel, I typically talk about a week worth of news, but we've got 2 weeks worth because some stuff happened 2 weeks ago that I think are pretty important to talk about. So we're gonna get right into it. So old news: an illegal alien from Egypt committed a terrorist attack in Boulder, Colorado. I believe it was on June 1st. So way to kick off Pride Month. Um, this terrorist attacked a peaceful gathering in the literal sense, not the way that leftist commies call a peaceful protest. And this gathering was people who were trying to raise awareness for hostages that were still held by Hamas. And this terrorist did this to free Palestine. Um, he apparently came into the United States on a temporary work visa, or just a temporary visa, overstayed his welcome, and then ultimately decided to attack and hurt people in the name of Hamas/Islam. Right after he committed this attack, his wife and 5 children were quickly detained by ICE and were being processed to be sent back to Egypt, which is interesting because, to my understanding, his youngest daughter just graduated from an American high school. Real weird how that worked out. Despite the wishes of the Trump administration, a Biden-appointed judge blocked the deportation of the terrorist family, saying that, quote, it would do irreparable harm, end quote. To whom, I'm not sure, because this guy was charged with like 118 counts of felonious assault on people because he used like a homemade flamethrower and Molotov cocktails. So now you have Democrats defending a literal terrorist. Trump slammed Biden over this since, like I said, the terrorist came into the country during the Biden administration, and I agree with this sentiment 100%. You'll have people within the government say there was only like 4 million people that came in. Nah, the numbers are over 20 million people came in during the Biden presidency. And, there's a greater than zero chance that some of them have evil intentions. Now, I know that the Eighth Amendment says, and I quote, and this is a little pocket constitution, thanks to Patriot Mobile, not a sponsor. I don't actually have any sponsors, but I recently just switched to them for my mobile service, and they were much, much better than Mint Mobile. So, Ryan Reynolds, you can kiss my ass. Back to the Eighth Amendment, though. It says, and I quote, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Now, in my opinion, I think this amendment needs to be updated a little bit, and maybe at the end there, put for petty crimes. And those crimes, would have to be fleshed out by the legislature who is making this edit to the amendment. But, I think we would all agree that petty crimes would be, stealing a candy bar from a convenience store. Or, you accidentally hit someone's mailbox out on the side of the road. Minor things like that. For a terrorist attack like this, I think that a public humiliating execution should be done to show anybody, regardless of your race, your religion, your creed, your nationality, whatever, if you decide to go to a crowd of people with a homemade flamethrower and light people up, we are going to strip you naked, beat you with cane poles, and then tie your arms and legs to four-wheelers and pull you apart into 4 fucking pieces for doing this. Because this kind of stuff will not stop unless it is met with equal force or more. And that'll kind of tie into something I have at the very end of this show. So, I don't know. If I'm out of line here, let me know. but that's just the way I think. I think a lot of people also feel the same way. Well, maybe a lot of people on the political right or so of this country. Lefties obviously want this kind of stuff because you have a Biden judge that's literally defending an actual terrorist. Um, President Trump signed a travel ban that is similar to his travel ban from his first term, but this one restricts immigration and non immigrant visas from 12 countries: Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Um, I've never even heard of Eritrea, so I don't know exactly why that's a big problem, but I guess it is. On top of this, partial restrictions apply to several other countries as well, and Trump did this because of concerns for national security, as we saw with an Egyptian um, illegal alien committing a terrorist attack. Funny enough, though, Egypt was not on the list of the 12 countries there. So, anyway, President Trump shared a post on Truth Social / X that claimed Biden was replaced with a robotic clone in 2020. While this is most likely a joke, it is interesting to me that Biden would sometimes appear more coherent than others, and people have pointed out that at times where his earlobes appeared to be different, sometimes they were like more attached to the side of his head than not. So, um, it's possible that Joe Biden had some body doubles. After all, world leaders have been using body doubles for a long time, with the most recent that I could think of being Saddam Hussein. Now, not saying he did, not saying he didn't, it's just interesting. Um, Elon Musk blasted Donald Trump and the big beautiful bill, rightly claiming that it will increase the national debt. While it does contain tax cuts for taxpayers, there's way too much pork and bloat in it for government spending, which will increase the national deficit by another $20 trillion. The Short Act is still missing from it, which would remove short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and other types of firearms like that from NFA restrictions. However, the Hearing Protection Act is still there, so that's a good thing. But none of the Doge cuts are going to be codified into law, so all the stuff that they found that the government was pissing our money away on will get refunded and continue to waste our money. So, great job, Republicans, for upholding the stereotype in Congress that you get elected on promises to do something and now you literally do nothing. Thanks a lot. At least Democrats tell us who they are. Y'all are pathetic at this point. I actually forgot to put this in my notes, but I'm still going to talk about it. Y'all remember the Abrego Garcia guy, the Maryland man that was wrongfully deported? It turns out he was part of MS-13, as I've talked about before. He's actually been brought back to the United States. So, Democrats, you might want to be happy about this one. But he's being charged with counts of human trafficking. So he might just get sent right back. I don't know. At this point, sounds like the guy is a real piece of shit and should just be launched in the middle of the ocean for all I care. So that kind of is a decent segue into the next thing here. Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan's podcast and talked about the work that the FBI has done so far during the second Trump administration, such as cracking down on illegal immigration coming into the United States and all the evils that accompany that, targeting China to slow down the flow of fentanyl coming in, and more. However, FBI Director Patel mentioned two very interesting things. The Bureau has seized Anthony Fauci's personal devices, such as cell phones, computers, etc. And he said that his own home, the director of the FBI, his own home was swatted 2 days before he went on the podcast. Now, I know I've talked about this before, but if you don't know what swatting is, it's when somebody calls the local sheriff's department in a specific area and says, hey, there's a hostage situation going on at this address, you need to go take care of it, when there's really no hostage situation going on. Um, these things are done with the intent of police using lethal force on the residents of the home. Thankfully, though, this didn't happen because it was the director of the FBI. Um, so, with that out of the way, I still have major criticism of Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and the entire FBI at this point because they claimed we would have the Epstein files on day one of Trump's presidency, yet it is June 14th of 2025 as I record this, and we still have nothing. Again, maybe if Pam Bondi got off of Fox News and did her job, we might have something here. But at this point, it seems like they are just covering something up. You know, you've had almost 6 months now, and Patel keeps saying, "Oh, just give us more time. We're working on it. Give us more time. We're working on it." You've been working on it for 6 months, dude. Where's the stuff at? So, you know, this is why people don't have trust in the institutions. You know, you get lied to so much, your trust is gone. Okay. This one is a little unsettling. The Trump administration is thinking about dismantling the ATF, which I would originally say is a good thing, but they're thinking of merging it with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration. This is a huge problem as the DEA has way more resources than the current ATF. And if the new agency decides to tackle gun violence the same way they did the war on drugs, things can get real weird real quick. I'm going to link Brandon Herrera's latest video about this. It's not his most recent upload, but it's the most recent one he did about the ATF possibly merging with the DEA. I'll have that linked below. Again, I am not sponsored by Brandon Herrera. I am making no money off of these videos. I am doing it just because I think it needs to be done. So go watch that video if you care about gun rights, and go support Brandon Herrera because he's doing good work too. Okay, last bit of old news. Ukraine launched a major drone attack against Russian bombers, claiming to have hit $7 billion worth of Russian military equipment, taking out an estimated 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers. The drone attack, known as Operation Spiderweb, took place after a year of planning and launching tons of drones from the back of delivery trucks. Ukraine claims they didn't let the United States know about this attack beforehand, but I'm calling bullshit because this was way too organized. Plus, we've been supplying Ukraine with a ton of military equipment and aid anyway, so they wouldn't risk, losing that cash cow. Just be honest. So, that's wrapping up old news. Current news. So starting a week ago yesterday, so 8 days ago, there have been protests and subsequently riots in Los Angeles because Democrats are upset that people who've broken the law are being held accountable to the law, because they say that nobody is above the law unless it's their own people. Weird how that works. What started this was ICE detained several illegal aliens in LA, and people are pissed that the law is being enforced. Weirdly enough, the president of Mexico put out a statement saying to stand with the protesters, even though these protesters are in the United States. So it's funny how you have a government of a foreign nation, advocating for the God, I cannot talk today. Advocating for the protests in our country. It's also funny how people are prouder to be Mexican when they're not in Mexico and they're in the United States, because they're flying flags of Mexico in LA. So, yeah, it's getting weird out there. Apparently, the situation in LA has gotten so crazy that the National Guard and the Marines have been sent in to maintain order, and the Trump administration will also be sending tactical units from ICE into large Democrat cities such as LA, New York, Chicago, and all the other usual culprits. As of today, protests will be taking place across the country known as the No Kings protest, which is ironic to me because just before Biden left office, he tried to simply declare a 28th Amendment to the Constitution, which is completely antithetical to the Constitution in and of itself. So, again, I've talked about this before. Liberal logic is meant to make no sense. And as Tim Pool says, it is a cult that just adheres to the, social orthodoxy. And that's why it can change from minute to minute. Yeah. So if you are going anywhere today, I pray that you keep your eyes open, head on a swivel, avoid major cities, and just be smart. If you see large crowds, just get away. Because, as any martial arts instructor will tell you, you win every fight that you don't get into. So, yeah. And I think it was Ben Franklin who also said, stay strapped or get clapped or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, today, June 14th, is also the 250th birthday of the United States Army, and a military parade is planned to take place in Washington, D.C. To celebrate the birthday. It's also Flag Day, which honors the adoption of the United States flag, as well as President Trump's birthday. So, with all that being said, I hope and pray that things go smoothly in D.C. today, with all the craziness that's supposed to go on. It's also supposed to rain in D.C. today, I believe, also here in the Cincinnati area. So, at least where there's rain, I don't think there will be a lot of craziness because, communist lefties get a little less zealous when there's rain and snow. But the Army Parade is scheduled to begin at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting from the Lincoln Memorial, and will proceed down Constitution Avenue near the National Mall. The parade will include over 6,000 soldiers, 128 tanks, armored personnel carriers, and artillery pieces, as well as 62 aircraft flying overhead. And also interesting, too, that I read, and I'll have a link from, I think it's from the AP about this. In the parade, there will be small groups of U.S. Army troops in period costumes from every conflict that the U.S. Army has fought in, all the way back to the Revolutionary War. So I think that's interesting as I'm a huge history buff. I've been to Civil War battlefields and stuff, seen reenactments. It's pretty cool. In my opinion, lame white guy, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so I'm going to try to watch this, and I encourage you to do so as well. That way, you'll stay away from the No Kings protests and keep your ass out of jail. All right. Coming to a little bit of an end here. Democrat LaMonica McIver was indicted on 3 counts of forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement at a facility in New Jersey that was dealing with illegal aliens. McIver could face a maximum of 17 years in prison, but in reality, she'll probably only serve a very short jail sentence. But, just as I said earlier, as Democrats like to quote, no one is above the law. If you don't know, Democrat LaMonica McIver is a representative in D.C. for New Jersey, and she was on film physically assaulting law enforcement at a detention facility in New Jersey. So I'm glad to see that there's a little bit of accountability here, but yeah, she'll probably just get a little bit of a slap on the wrist and sent on her way. Finally, this has been happening throughout the week and just kind of escalated last night. United States embassies in the Middle East have evacuated personnel earlier in the week because of fears that Israel was going to launch some missile strikes against Iran, which they did late in the evening on Thursday. Iran struck back, and now both countries are firing missiles at one another with deaths already, because missiles go boom. Of course, the United States has entered the conflict on the side of Israel to help intercept missiles heading at Israeli targets, and Iranian officials are threatening American bases in the region should they aid Israel in any way. Also, I saw a clip that there were spots deep in Tel Aviv that got hit. Thankfully, I think in the one nobody was killed, but some major property damage was done. But that's kind of concerning, I guess, for Israel because their Iron Dome didn't catch all of the missiles. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe World War III is on the horizon. I don't know. We'll see. You know, we got this going on with Iran and Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and Russia, and maybe China's licking their chops looking at Taiwan. Don't know. That's why I'm just a guy here on the internet talking about the news. So that's all I've got for this week. I have links, sources in the comments or in the description below. Like I said, I'm not sponsored by Patriot Mobile or Brandon Herrera. Just shouting out those two companies slash personalities. Yeah. I don't even know how to wrap this one up. Just hit the like button, share with your normie friends, and stay safe out there, guys. And I will see you all next time. Take care.